Peace and blessings, everyone. Peace and power. We're gonna go ahead and get started. How y'all doing today?
Doing great, brother.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings. Black power. Peace. I just want to say I'm grateful for everybody coming through. This is the last day of the epic event that we did this weekend. Before I get started, I just want to let everybody know the bath. We got water if anybody want water, and then the restrooms are right through this door right here. So yeah, this is the Temple of New African Unity. The temple, basically, we're doing this for unity no matter whether you're Muslim, Hebrew, Christian, RBG, Pan-African, whatever you are, it's based off unity for the black culture and the black race. The temple knew there's a deliberate distinction from the derogatory from the N-word, and it's part of a larger movement to reclaim and elevate the meaning of words relative to black identity, culture, particularly new in you, as a symbol of unity, wholeness, and divine power, which we already know we already have, correct? Yes, sir. Okay. All right, well, I just want to bring up Sister Shamekia to do some acknowledgments, pour libations, and get the vibe going correct. And then we're going to bring up our host, Sister Bria X. Let's go ahead and give Sister Shamekia a hand coming up. It's the mic. Yeah, it's the mic.
I don't have to do anything, just hold it.
Just hold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, and much gratitude for all those in attendance today who saw the importance of communing together in the spirit of unity. Before we can begin with our host, Sister Bria, and our beloved speakers, Brother Abdul and Sister Zoe, we must first acknowledge those that have made it even possible for us to be able to commune here today, our mighty ancestors. The word ancestors has become such a freely used word today. It has been used in conversations about spirituality, freedom, our history, and in the rebirth of our current spirit of resistance. In these conversations, I frequently hear about all the ancestors that guide us, but rarely do I hear the actual mention of the unnamed ancestors, the ones who are also part of our DNA as much as Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, and Nat Turner. Today, we acknowledge and show gratitude to those ancestors. We offer pure gratitude to the many enslaved tribes who, under the direction of Abdallah, the King of Peace, came together and set aside their tribal differences to unite against a common enemy and for the common goal of freedom, or else. We offer gratitude to our ancestors that chose the sea, not out of fear of the unknown, but to commune with Yamaya instead of enduring the torture waiting for them in the States. We honor the ancestors who stood with Nat Turner to administer justice to the colonizers who felt they were sending some of our kings and queens to meet the maker their colonial minds imagined, only to realize that he who took his life was created in the image of God. We offer gratitude to the ancestors who facilitated the rebirth of the ones carrying the ancestral DNA via the womb as birth workers, standing in the gap when Black women had no one else to turn to. We offer gratitude to the fathers who had to stare at the pregnant belly of their queens and bid farewell as he made the ultimate sacrifice to face the teeth of dogs and the butts of guns as his queens carried the child to the safety of freedom. We offer gratitude to the ancestors who with courage listened in on the conversations of their white masters in an effort to provide information to the resistance. We offer gratitude to the women and men who stood with the Black Panther Party, providing nutritious meals and health care in our forgotten neighborhoods. These are the ancestors. Imagine their faces and find their likeness when you look in the mirror. Imagine the purity of this water we offer that is going to be poured out to honor the nourishment they continue to provide us. To the ancestors, much gratitude for our nourishment, for our continued unity, for our continued life. Thank you. And with that, turn it over to our host, Sister Bria X.
Thank you. Praise be to Allah. Assalamu alaikum, family. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be in front of the people of God today in this beautiful city of Phoenix, Arizona. It is my pleasure to be in Arizona for my very first time. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I shared on Friday that my tribe, the Pamunkey tribe, was the first tribe to come in contact with the colonizers in Virginia. And so we hide no more. And so as we embark upon this theme of unity on today, and our divine ancestors just know that we have survived the unsurvivable. And when we remember not only our mother's stories or our father's stories, but our story as a collective unit, our story spans eons of time, 76 trillion years we have been here. And from the beginning until the end, we will be here. And so I'd like to honor my teacher, leader, and guide, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, who in this city in 1986 delivered a message called Self-Improvement, the Basis for Community Development. And he said Phoenix, Arizona is the epicenter of a worldwide movement, that in this city, the world will change, not just the city, not just the country, not just this hemisphere, but the entire world. And as we embark as the people of God, know that our collective consciousness is actually thrust onto the moon and reflected back onto the earth, so that we are actual satellites for the new world to come through. So when we come together in spaces like this, I want to honor that each of us, through our collective past, our collective experience, we all have jewels that have been given to us and forged under that pressure. It takes a lot of pressure to wake up every day and to strive to become something that you have never seen before. It takes divine courage and motivation to lift our heads up when everything around us tells us that we are worth nothing. To understand that we pull from the deepest, darkest pits of us to rise above our circumstances, that comes from a divine place. We are the unbreakable. We are a new people made after years, hundreds of years, and generations of chattel slavery. We now rise as a new creation. We now rise as the material for God to use and make all things new, as we have been forged under fire and pressure, just like the diamonds of the earth. We are Allah's jewels. We are his prized possession and his treasure that proves that he is God. And what God has created, no man may destroy. No matter how hard they have tried and strived, they cannot deny the fact that we are God's people. And so today I want to encourage everyone through every culture around this world, every culture, even on the planet of Mars, appreciates that struggle and sacrifice of our ancestors. And we now have the divine responsibility to teach. And so I wanted to share an excerpt of that beautiful, beautiful lecture that was delivered in 1986. And it says, "If Jesus is the prime example," he said, "I of myself can do nothing, but whatsoever the Father wills that I do." He is telling you that he is dependent upon, he is not sovereign Lord. Jesus is not sovereign Lord, but he showed us through his submission that he is dependent upon the power bigger than himself. And when we come together and we accept each other as brother and sister, we can tap into that power that is bigger than ourselves. Wherever two or more are gathered, surely he is with us. So it is through collaboration, it is through connection and communication that we unlock the divine power within us. Because imagine, could we go anywhere if we had one leg? Could we go anywhere if we had one eye and one ear and one leg and one arm? We would be so disabled, someone else would have to take care of us. And right now, we're disabled. Someone else is taking care of us. But when we remember and we reunite with the entire body of Christ, now we can get up and move and do something for ourselves. So with that being said, I'd like to bring up our first speaker, Brother Abdul. Thank you so much.
How's everybody's day?
Fine, sir.
Good. We got good energy today? Yes, sir. I want y'all to give this sister another round of applause because she is a real ball of fire, right? A good fire, a good flame that we need to have in our presence. And appreciate your words there. I want to, I'm going to leave this right here. You guys can hear me just fine, right? Yes, sir. Is this okay for the recording, for me to set it down here? Okay. I wanted to read, and it just so happens to tie in to where she come from, a whole nother state, and her first words ties into the book that I have written called Diagram of a New World. And so if you guys may, I would like to start by reading a little excerpt out of this book. It says, of all the darkness and ignorance of the old world, one winner emerged to dominate it in the later stages. The winner was a new world within the old world and was heir to the new Roman seat of power. The seat of power shifted from the east to the west. The west became the superpower of the old world and the new mind and heart that shaped the old world's human body. Its main method of control and spread is known as colonialism. The heart and mind of the entire earth surrendered to European colonialism. Inside the heart of colonialism is an ideology of white supremacy. At the center of white supremacy is a type of caste system derived from its feudal past. Its purpose and aim have never been to lie to itself, but rather to lie to others, causing self-hatred and division amongst the masses. The purpose of the ideology of white supremacy was to bring to bear the fruits of another ideology called manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is about one group's greedy appetite as a minority to seize all resources of the earth from the 90% majority. Dare us not to think for a second that the plan was to share the greedy exploits with the remaining 10% of the population. No, the original European feudal system, when properly analyzed, started in Europe and was practiced on and used against the masses of Europeans. It was the 1% that was royalty, clergy, true noblemen of Europe. Once the Europeans set sail for the New World, it's old now, they declared themselves free from the religious oppression and greed of the government they were escaping, that they learned in detail the power of a caste feudal system. They have to have a lower tier class because that is just how they were raised. And they found it in the new color-coded system in which they made the lowest tier black and the highest white. It changed from a class to a color-coded system, with black being at the very bottom and white being at the very top. Now understand that through global dominance, this new color-coded caste system of black being at the bottom would no longer be confined to the United States of America, but can be found globally. In its perfect usefulness, it was not just used to dominate the kidnapped Africans, but it has been very effective in causing global division between nations, tribes, and families. We must see that the people of color make up the overwhelming majority of the Earth's citizenry. In fact, the Earth is comprised of about 90% non-European people. With the new caste system in place, the promise was to make all Europeans part of the royal and noble class, and all others part of the peasantry, serf, slave class. Of course, this was not achieved, nor was it ever the real plan. In fact, it was only used to pacify those Europeans who were not and would not be part of the noble class. The Europeans who were poor and uneducated, without any significant landholdings, were always and still are kept at a level of peasantry. With the new color-coded caste system, the entire earth was dominated, re-educated, converted, and subjugated to it, whether consciously or subconsciously. The poor whites bought into it and became the main tool used to promote its reality, though they benefited very little, if at all, from the exploits of their more elite members. Every nation on earth got a chance to experience its own version of superiority by practicing white supremacy. The brown felt superior to the black. The light brown felt better than the brown. And the reddish yellow felt that those darker than them were beneath them. The nations became sitting ducks as their own arrogance, egos, and false pride precluded them from forming the real alliances needed to empower themselves against the new global bullies. So I wanted to start with that because our theme today is New African Unity, right? And so we have an old Africa, we have a new Africa. We have an old world, and now we're going into a new world. So we have to have a new thought process. And in thinking about our unity, I want us to think about also our division and what causes us to be divided. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today is what causes us to be divided. Y'all with me so far? Yes, sir. All right, all right. So I'm going to make this interactive, okay? I'm going to have you guys help me out because I don't know everything. But usually when it comes off of the lips of others, you know, I can share to a few people. Just give me a word or two. When I call out the word, I would like for you to respond. I don't have enough for everybody. I apologize. We're going to be cognizant of your time. I think we can have a little fun with this experience. So, at the top is the key word. When I say a key word, if you guys would help me out and just read off what's on there, and we'll go from the top and kind of explain what it is that we're trying to get to, right? Because I don't want to just talk about one side of the story. I want to talk about the other side of the story. All too often, we want to placate to everybody's feelings and not talk about some of the problems that we're experiencing, right? And so to me, the first one that I want to get into is the power of words and how words have been used to keep us divided, and how we have to be able to practice another form to keep us together, because we have to have an objective here to unify and see this as a necessity. And time is of the essence. The longer we wait to unify, the more difficult it becomes, the more challenges we face, right? So my first one, if someone could scream out what they have under words. Pictures.
Romantic.
Romantic.
Black and white.
Black and white. I like that.
Letters.
All right. We'll give you a little bit more time. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Good Lord.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So just imagine if I give you a scripture and you place your whole life around this scripture. And this scripture's got all of these words in it. But I give you a picture that's worth 1,000 words. And that picture is not in the scripture. It's not the words of the man that wrote the scripture, nor the narrator of the scripture. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, we have a man that seems to want to put our picture up on all kinds of things. And then he turns around and puts his picture up on other things. We have an organization called the Jewish Defamation League. They are there to make sure that they preserve the image of the Jewish community. And if you say anything against the image of a Jew, they come in to get you. They want their pint of blood and pint of flesh. Am I right or am I wrong? This same organization has spent billions of dollars to do what to our image? to discredit us, with pictures being worth 1,000 words. So a lot of us are ingesting things internally and not knowing that it's poisonous. Because along with the truth that was given to us, we had the picture that's worth 1,000 words. And so we're not ingesting a man whose voice rolls like thunder. We're not relating to those types of scriptures of a man with fiery red eyes and a voice that rolls like thunder. Because they gave us a picture of a man who looks soft as Charmin. Am I right? Am I wrong? Huh? Whose voice sounds real slick and buttery, right? And so now we begin to respond only to the things that connect us to the picture. And the picture that's worth 1,000 words threw us off of the trail. What's the next word, brother? What's the next part?
Oh, I only have one. Romantic.
Oh, yeah. See, now we're talking about words, right? Everybody wants a man that's going to be what? Romantic. But did you know that the original dictionary of romance was part of a linguistic system? The linguistic system was a linguistic system that was, according to the Oxford and Webster's unabridged dictionary, any linguistic system that is comprised primarily of lies, fantasies, and exaggerations, right? So now, I'm not against people giving you flowers and those types of gestures right there, but words are important because they have a history, right? When we start promising people the moon and the stars and the mountains, right? We can't deliver on that promise. But that sounds good, don't it? Huh? So now we're getting adjusted to being lied to. We're coercing one member to tell the lie, and the other group is getting conditioned to accept the lie. So now that when we tell the truth, it doesn't register. It sounds boring. It's not romantic, right? But we didn't know that the inside of the word romance was lies, fantasies, and exaggerations, right? And then we study the history of the word and the languages under romance. Those same romantic words were used to build a thing called the Bible, right? And then Jesus turned around and told us that when they speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own. What does he mean if he speaketh of his lie, if he speaketh of his own? He's using the romantic language. That's part of the code to understanding the scriptures, so that it doesn't throw you off of the trail of who you are and who is your enemy, right? What's our next word? Under words.
Letters.
Letters. Remember Letterman? Anybody old as me remember Letterman? Yeah, Letterman used to come into the room, and he was like a little cartoon superhero, right? And so he would have some burglar come into the house holding up a bat, and he would change the B into a C, then the guy would be holding a cat. So he would do all kind of things with the letters. But letters make up what? Words, right? But letters also are what we use to what? Spell, right? And so words cast what? Spells. So somebody cast a spell on us using words. Does that make sense? So you can be blessed by good words, but you can equally be cursed by bad words, right? What's our next word? Nigger is a curse word. Prime example, right? That's a curse word. We use it as a term of endearment now, right? Which sounds so cool, right? One of my poems that I done was on the word nigger. You guys, some of you guys have heard that before, right? It sounds so cool. We all get sucked in to this nigger. But the word has a history. And my father told me everything that has a history, the history of a thing can never be averted. No matter how you change it, the history of it, its original intent can never be avoided. Wherever we hear the word nigger all the time, on a regular basis, I'm going to give you a scenario about a bunch of black people gathered together, and I want you to tell me which one do you think you're going to hear the word nigger the most. You got one group of black people having a convention for black doctors and lawyers. And you have another group of black people who are standing in the projects shooting dice. with pistols in their pocket. Which one do you think you're most apt to hear the word nigger? Right? You see that? In prison, you probably hear it a lot. Right? In the financial district, amongst black people, you probably won't hear it that much. The words have power. They cast a spell. They're called a curse word for a reason. Someone cursed us with the word nigger by calling us out of our name. The word definitively means, according to Webster's unabridged dictionary, something dead, a tool to be used by others. Right? Doesn't that sound like what we've been doing as a people? Just becoming a tool for somebody else to use?
Yes, sir.
Right? And we need to stop being somebody else's tool, somebody else's nigger. We need to come out of death and into life. There is death in us not being united. There's life in us being united. We didn't come here by ourselves, and we can't get nothing done by ourselves. Right? What's our next word, brothers and sisters? Love. Under word. Under word.
God, Lord.
Are you talking about the top word?
Yeah, the top word is word.
What's under it? You listen to what's under it.
What's under it? If your car's
Black.
oh, black. There we go. There we go. Black. That's a good word. We identify as black people. I'm here to tell you that we've been lied to. We've been lied to. There's been a switcheroo going around. We know we black, but are we really black? What if I told you that if I drove by grass and that grass had a color on it, did you drive by and say, oh, look at that colored grass? No, because the grass is the color that it's supposed to be. Right? If you see yourself as the original man, then you get yourself out of the necessity to identify by a particular color. Because truth be told, you look around the room, a lot of us ain't black. I beg to say that none of us is actually black. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
But what if I told you that the real thing that you are is light? Because black absorbs what? Light. Right? But see, nobody wants to break the word down to you like that. If your black absorbs white and white reflects light, then the person who's white would be more apt to be what? Dark. Huh? You see that? Words are important to have a deeper understanding of it. Because these words can become divisive amongst ourselves. This man wanted to color code the world to divide the world up. To get you to think that you didn't have as many people on your side as you do have on your side. And we got light skin versus dark skin. You know, you got people all over the world running around here talking about they ain't black. And they black. Is the India for India black? He not black?
Right.
He look black to me. Right? So the world is bigger than what we think it is. What's our next word under word?
White.
White, black, and white. We dealt with both of those. That's the next word.
The dead.
The dead. The dead ain't dead. We've been misled by the scriptures. Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. So if the dead is burying the dead, then at one point the dead ain't dead. So we're waiting on a resurrection of the dead, looking for the dead to be resurrected, but when the real dead that needs to be resurrected ain't dead. It's the dead that Jesus said, let bury the dead. So now we have to come out of a mental and spiritual death that we haven't foreseen ourselves as being the key as a people who are ripe for the resurrection. We any more under the words?
God, Lord.
God, Lord? Yes. The scriptures say there are many gods. And I don't know about y'all, a lot of us have a landlord. Right? So, who is the God and who is the Lord? If we get out of calling each other niggas and seeing each other, if God is my father and I'm a male, that makes me what? His son. And it also makes me what? A God. So we have to put good words on each other so that we have something good to look up to. Whenever you give a man a responsibility of something to look up to, he's more apt to do it. When you let a man off the hook and tell him it's okay to be a nigga, it's okay to be this, it's okay to be that, he's less apt to stand up to the pressure. Right? So my father always told me that my name, that he wanted me to live up to my name. And I used to think, man, that's a heavy burden right there. That's tough. But you think about those types of things because words matter. Any more on the word? We're going to move right along. Let's go into divide. What's dividing us? Nations. We have missed an opportunity in the world to form alliances with our brothers and sisters because of the division. Somebody went around the world and drew up unnatural borders and unnatural lines and told you that these people was called this people was called that, this people was called this, and this people was called that. These are the tall ones, these are the short ones, these are the wide-nosed ones, these are the kinky-haired ones, and these are the straight-haired ones. And they call us by all these different names, right? But in reality, that's all imaginary. That's somebody else manipulating you to divide you, right? What else do we have under that?
Nature community. Nature community.
Oh, yeah. If we look at what is natural for us, then we see what's good for us. Am I right or am I wrong? And so somebody's going around giving us something unnatural, and it's poisoning us, and it's separating us. We don't have to say good versus evil. You can just say nature versus the unnatural, right? Then he uses, again, clever words. He has a clever word called supernatural. I challenge that word because it's a lie word. If you get rid of the lie words in your head, you'll be better off. There's no such thing as supernatural. You know why? Give you a question. Is the sun natural?
Yes.
Have you seen anything supernatural out there that was more important than the sun? Have you seen anything supernatural out there more better than the sun? Right? Is your eyesight natural? Have you seen anything out there that was supernatural that you would take precedence over your own eyesight? No. So all of nature is super. Everything natural is super. To say supernatural is an oxymoron because nature is already super by itself. This is a clever way to get you out of universe and reality and into fantasy land, right? Because now I don't need an explanation because I can sum it up by, oh, it's supernatural. The sun is going to be supernatural too, right? What's our next word?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So supernatural in the sense that you just said, and I get that. But what about supernatural in the sense of super and sub? Because there are elements of life that deal on planes. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There are things that ground us to earth, but there are also things that elevate us in divine. So when you say the supernatural, in my mind, it would be the divine things of my nature that are not on an earthen plane. And when you say subnatural, then it's the things that are innate, the things that are firsthand, the things that are involuntary, like breathing, that I'm just going to respond to. You say this, I'm going to smack you. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. I get it. I get it.
So what about in that sense?
Okay. So in that sense, what you're talking about is the layers, right? There's layers of things that are seen, and there's layers of things that are unseen, right? But just because we can't see something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in reality, right? And so we don't have an understanding of who we are naturally, right? And we're talking about giving words and command words to bring us back to our own spiritual presence, right? Our own spiritual presence is the most natural thing in the universe. When we talk about nature, we ain't just talking about mountains and valleys and hills and oceans. We're talking about people. The people are as natural as they come, right? And so one of the other words we talked about was nature and man, right? But the scriptures talk about man in a negative way, right? But it doesn't identify the split and the differentiations between man. Because one man was created while another man was made. And we don't want to confuse the created man with the made man. Right. And so one man is called the children of God and the sons of God. And the other man, according to Jesus, is called the sons of the devil. Right? The made man and the created man are not to be interchanged and interlocked. So all too many times we take scriptures and not understand the word. As if a man say, man is born in sin, shaped in iniquity. His only imagination is only evil continually. Well, what man is that? Because the scriptures told me about a man of sin. Right? And if you're the man of sin, it makes sense. But everybody can't be the man of sin. Am I right or am I wrong? Right? So you got to be able to investigate the power of the word to go deeper into it. Did I answer your question? Right? The division of things is real. Because just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't have an understanding to it. Right? So we can grow into an understanding. Sometimes the understanding may not come back for generations. But for a person to tell you that something can't be comprehended and not understood, that person is not operating at elevated term. Right? At one point in time, we'd have thought it'd be impossible to see somebody in China on TV. Right? We'd have said, well, I saw a vision of a man watching the TV and he saw the guy from around the world. And they would say, well, that was supernatural. But now we think it's natural and we can understand it. The understanding will come later. But the universe is giving us a chance to prove all things and hold fast to that which is true. And just because we don't have the knowledge of it yet, doesn't mean there isn't a knowledge and science behind it. Does that make sense? Let's move on. Let's talk about Bible. I want something out the Bible. Man, Adam. Woohoo! Big misunderstanding, right? Because the first story is Adam and Eve. Am I right or wrong? Naked in the garden. And somehow they're hiding from God because they ain't got no clothes on. And you got to ask yourself, why is a man hiding if he's doing what you left him to do? Well, none of us learned enough about the Bible and learned enough about seminary school to understand that at least 4 different writers and authors wrote each chapter of the book. And they were haphazardly spliced together. So it's not in sequential order. That's why one of them says God created man, the other one says God made man. One writer says Noah had 2 of every kind in the ark, the other one says Noah had 7 of every kind in the ark. 2 different writers, hodgepodge spliced in the book. Does that make sense? So, Adam and Eve couldn't have been the only people on the planet. Because they went to, after Cain killed Abel, Cain went to the city of Nod and took for himself a what? A wife in a whole city. So already we have a misunderstanding here. Again, these are all tools used to divide us up. It divides up the man from the woman by not giving us the proper understanding of what is meant here. This is a particular man who came on the scene long after people got here. It's a particular group that came on the scene long after the people got here, right? On one hand, we're talking about the man that was created, and the other hand, we're talking about the man that was made, right? What's our next one out the Bible?
Out the Bible.
That's the only one? Well, let's talk about freedom. Earth? Yeah. That's a lie, ain't it? I'm supposed to be free, but I ain't got no earth. That's a trick. I'm made out of the earth. I am the earth. The earth is me. I can prove it to you. The earth is 70% water. What percentage of water are we? The earth has more iron in it than gold, right? You go to the doctor, most of us be short on what? Iron. Ain't don't be people short on gold, right? Am I right or wrong? You got the same percentages in your body as in the earth, right? And now a man want to ride around the earth and seize the earth and then sell the earth back to you, his rightful heirs. Have the nerve to call you a citizen and tell you that you're free, but you ain't got no earth, right? So it's a trick for us to think that we free without no earth, because you're going to always be in debt if you ain't got no earth, because every fiber of your being requires the earth to breathe and live, right? What's our next word? Oh man, that's freedom, right? Huh? This is what they give us. We are free. We're free to live a wayward lifestyle with no rules and no laws. This is the way the man comes and interrupts our natural freedom by playing games with us, giving us a chance to not follow any rules and any laws. Sounds wonderful, don't it? Huh? Just imagine if Daddy let you do whatever you did and there was no repercussions. Man, that's tempting, right? Right? But that's not freedom. That's hell. That's you being in captivity. That's poverty, death, and failure. You not having to follow rules is your own demise. We have to learn, as Jesus says, to love the law, right? Not just practice it, but love it, right? Go ahead to the next one on freedom. Land, we talked about land. Peace. Yeah. The real freedom is having peace. The real freedom is having peace, but peace has to still have rules and requirements to it, right? And if we have land and we don't have any power on that land, we don't have any unity in that land, then it doesn't go far at all. Somebody's going to come and disrupt our peace. What's our next word? Under places.
Africa.
Africa. Woo, that's why we're here, right? After the 1900s, they went to work on a thing called the Suez Canal. And after they built the Suez Canal, they started calling parts of Africa by a new term called the Middle East.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? And so they got your brain all miswired about what is yours and what's not yours. Right? So if the Middle East is part of Africa, then we've been deceived into thinking entire groups of people don't have commonality between us. Am I right or am I wrong? So now, under the new Africa, we don't know how big that's going to be if it's new. I mean, America got Hawaii. Why can't we get some other stuff too for Africa? Right? Why we got to be limited to the lines that the British drew to decide to call what is ours, which was really his. He divided it up for himself. This line isn't even your lines. This is his lines. Then we got 54 different countries in Africa. And so now we're trying to settle on what is African culture. What is African culture when you got 54 different countries, over 2,000 languages? We have to find something of success to learn from out of Africa. And not just look at the whole bit of the pot, because it's so many different interwoven fabrics in there. Right? And it's okay that we're not all homogeneous and that we're not the same. That's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a standard of excellence. Africa needs a standard of excellence right now. Africa needs a standard for Africa so that it can get its own thing together and get independent and out of the colonial powers. And we got great brothers standing up trying to do that right now. We've had 100%. We've had them in the past.
Yes, sir.
But we can't be discouraged and dismayed because one of us gets shot down or two of us get shot down. We got to be like soldiers, stand in that track. If one falls, another one takes his place. That's what a soldier does. We don't make excuses. We can't be deterred by death anymore. We've already come out of that. Am I right or am I wrong?
Right.
Next word. Under places. Any more under places? Let's talk about unity.
The earth is yours.
The earth is yours. It's already yours. Somebody lied to you and told you that the earth was not yours. But if you felt that you were connected to the earth and that you were part of the earth, you would probably have a little more demand in your voice about justice, right? Somebody lies to us all the time by calling us a thing called a minority, right? And in reality, we're the overwhelming majority. As a minority, I'm a little more pacified, but you give me a little piece of justice, a little piece of the corner, and a little piece of life. Because after all, I'm a minority. Who am I to ask to fix things? But when you learn life and you learn the divisions that the man put on us, including the dividing up of Africa, you know we take up a bigger footprint in the earth than anybody else does. We're not the minority, we're the overwhelming majority. What's the next word?
Be on guard. Be on guard.
Be on guard. We got to be on guard against what we receive. We're not enough being militant soldiers on the language that's coming into our ears, right? Guard your gate, guard your eyes, guard your ears, guard your children. Because somebody is constantly out there trying to play the game of divide and conquer. And the number one real estate that the man want to take up is the real estate in your what? Your mind. Your mind is the battlefield, right? So when we get our minds free, then we can begin to talk about our next word, which is unity. Any more else under unity? We got one word left. Who's got that word?
Love.
Love. That's what it's going to take. I know y'all love me. Y'all wouldn't be here if you didn't love me. But you don't love me enough. And I failed to love you enough. And we've got to hold our foot to the fire on loving each other even more. We got to see the value in each other. We got to believe in each other. If the scriptures say, how can you say you love me whom you have not seen and hate your brother that you see every day? That's also transferred. How can you say you respect me who you have not seen and not respect your brother that you see every day? How can you say that you have faith in me whom you have not seen, but you can't put no faith in the brothers and sisters that you see every day? We got to love each other enough to correct each other. We got to love each other enough to believe in each other. We got to start seeing the best in each other, right? Not just seeing each other for who we are, but have faith that we can even do better and be better. Love is what's going to get us through. But it's got to be the right type of love. It can't be the love of us accepting anything goes, accepting the freedom of all the things, anything you choose to do is okay by me. No, it's not okay. We got to have laws, rules, and requirements for our unity, right? And nobody wants to talk about that. Certain things we got to throw out and other things we got to keep. But we all got to be willing to love each other enough to unite and have power with each other. Thank you all for your participation. My book is over here if anybody wants to get a copy, Diagram of a New World. And I'm going to turn it back over to my wonderful sister. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Brother Abdul. That was a beautiful talk. Thank you so much. How's everybody feeling? That was great, right? Can we give our brother another round of applause? All right, so without further ado, we're going to keep the program going. We've got our wonderful sister Zoe, who is coming up to be our next speaker today. So let's bring her up with a warm round of applause, our beautiful sister Zoe. Fantastic, yes ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Greetings. Good afternoon. Sorry. Before we get started, first I would like to thank everyone for being here. Thank you for your presence. Of course, I have to give honor to the ancestors and to the elders that we have in the room, Baba, Iya, Baba and Iya for being here. Everything that I do is in the honor of, we talk about African culture. One of the things is recognizing, honoring the elders in the room every time we start an occasion, particularly if we're giving honor to the ancestors. So with your permission, I can move forward. Ashe, thank you. So my name is Zoe Sarabo. For those of you who don't know me, originally from a small country in South America. It's an English-speaking country, the only English-speaking country in South America, so I'm not Latina. We were colonized by the British. So I've been here for a few years, came to attend college at Arizona State University, and I am still here. And do quite a few things in Arizona, but I'm first and foremost a mother, an educator, and I'm very, very much passionate about talking about our culture and us reconnecting to our ancestral heritage and our cultural roots. And so a lot of things that our dear brother, Abdul, thank you for the words that you shared. I'm just going to tie in a lot of what you've mentioned, giving honor to the theme of today of unity, but most importantly, the weekend that we're recognizing. As we may know, this is the birth weekend of Malcolm X, brother Malcolm X, and he'll be turning 100 years old tomorrow. So this is a big moment. So thank you to O.B.F.C, our Black Father Committee, for putting this together every year. We thank you for doing this. And so much of what I'm going to be speaking on is in honor of some of the words and the teachings of Malcolm X and other great leaders that we know of. I'm a little nervous, so forgive me. You'll think I'll get used to this by now. So the theme for this afternoon is reimagining the dream. Reimagining the dream, culture, revolution, and nation building. We've all been sold the concept of the American dream, right? I'm an immigrant. As immigrants, you know, we're told the story of what America is through the movies, the television shows, the land of milk and honey, right? All things, you know, beautiful. And so we all have been sold some aspect of what this American dream may be like. And in thinking about and preparing for this talk, I was thinking about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. And he spoke of the dream that he saw and he envisioned and he imagined for this nation. But by the time he passed, I think he had some changes and adjustments in his thinking and understanding of this nation. And we were going to go into that in a bit. But we are currently living in an interesting time where significant changes are happening. You made mention to some of that, right? Nationally and globally. There's a shift that's been happening slowly for some time, but we're now fully aware and paying attention to what is going on. But the question is are we as a people are preparing ourselves for what those changes are? You did mention the word black, right? As someone who is from another country, who is not from this United States, I do ascribe to the term black, because I don't see it as the color, the phenotypical color, but I see it as a political definition. It defines us as people of African descent, but not originating directly from the continent. So we are of African descent, but I still say that I identify as being black, because that connects me to who you are. Elon Musk is African, which he is, because nationally he was born on the continent of Africa. But is he black? No, because politically we don't have the same experience, and he cannot say that he's in any way connected to who we are. So in us recognizing what is going on, how do we protect ourselves, and what kind of future are we preparing for? And I'll talk to more about what those changes are, right? Leading up to the last elections, right, there was a development of this project, was a document that they created that really laid out the plans that they had for this country. What? Project 2025. So I said I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, so please forgive me, I will ask questions. I can't help it, right? That clearly states that what the changes and plans that they had for this country, right? Had nothing to do with us, just a group of people came together and said, hey, you know what? We need a plan for this country. Then we had the elections, right? And the current president has dedicated his time to changing the way the United States functions for the entirety of, which is different from the entirety of the existence of the United States as we know it, contributing even more so to the changing of the world. So we've had the growth of BRICS. I don't know who's familiar with BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, right, which is a group of emerging countries, economic states comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, right? So their goal is to influence, to counter the influence of Western countries that's dominated by their global institutions, right? The World Bank and so forth. So these countries came together and like, we're sick of America, we're sick of Europe, let's organize ourselves and come up with our own structure that is in defiance of whatever the United States wants to tell us. Now that has grown and has included Iran, United Arab Emirates, Indonesia, really expanding their influence. And America's getting nervous, right? America's getting nervous. So across the continent also, as you mentioned, we are seeing revolutionary changes taking place where leaders are taking actions against the influence of Europe, right, and Western powers. We see the Sahel nations, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, joining forces and removing Western military groups from their countries, really bold steps, and ending contracts with Western companies, telling them, hey, if we kind of have access to our own resources, then we don't need you in our country, right? And so we're all excited about the changes that is happening, and that's even influencing other countries like Ghana and these other leaders be like, okay, we see all the attention you're getting, all right, we need that attention too. So now they're being forced to make certain changes in their countries also. But the question, therefore, is within the next 100 years, let's say 50 years, when the story is being told, what would we say as a people are the ways in which we've responded to these dynamic changes that are happening globally, right? People of African descent, the Black nation, what are we doing as we are observing? Are we preparing ourselves? How do we protect ourselves? So we see the white supremacy, the powers that be of this nation, they have their plan. We see things happening on the continent in other countries of the world, but what are we doing within the space of, within this country? While other nations are planning, organizing, where are we as Black people? I understand for those of us who have invested in the electoral process, we're extremely disappointed by the most recent elections, understandably so, right? Some going through various stages of grief. I've actually had conversations with colleagues of mine who really expressed the grief that they've experienced because of the results of the elections. I personally couldn't relate. And the loss knowing that our lives will be significantly changed, right? And affected by the policies of the incoming administration. However, within a few days, I noticed a shift in energy. I don't know, for those of you who are obsessive with social media as I am, I'm always, scrolling through. I tell myself that's how I check out. But there's a lot of memes and pictures of Black women just sitting calmly watching as America's on fire. I don't know if you guys have been seeing these pictures. And I love it, right? Because we're telling yourself, look, this is not our business. We're not involved. We didn't vote this man in. Don't ask us to get involved, right? So we're not expending any emotional effort into responding to the chaos that's coming on around us, which I think is great, right? I think that's a good response. So Black women decided that they're not going to react or invest in the system any longer. It was time to sit still, to heal and observe. And the grief I saw some of my friends going through, I thought that was a good idea. However, it has been 6 months, right? Elections, November, December time. And as we sit in the midst of chaos and changes, I see us living our lives, learning line dances. I'm one of them. I'm still learning a few of them, right? Working within our communities, learning to grow food. I'm having conversations with a lot of people how we start eating our own food, traveling. We're living similarly in our own reality while still being a part of this world, right? While the social structure that we relied on are changing, schools are closing. There are quite a few school districts that are closing in Phoenix, right? Our families, every day I open social media, somebody's disappearing. I can't find my loved one. Black men and women are still fighting each other on social media. Police brutality is continuing in full force. And racist white supremacists are getting bolder and bolder each day, right? It's a fun world we're living in. But what are we to do? How do we as a collective respond to what's happening right now? And so in preparing for this, I had to turn to our leaders, our impactful leaders, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Marcus Garvey, to see what it is that they've said about the things that we can do, right? 3 men who inspired change, influenced the way in which we responded to our social conditions at that time, but I think is still relevant. Men who led movements that empowered us, instilled pride, and demonstrated what collective organization and action can do. They had a vision of what freedom looks like and how we could get there. So my question is, what is our vision for our future, for the next 50 years, 100 years, unforeseeable future? How do we respond effectively during these times? How are we taking control of our lives and destiny? Or are we simply going to sit the next 4 years out, waiting for the next elections, hoping that whomever is the person picked will be the one, the right one, the Messiah to change our problems? It disturbs me every time when people say, I'm just going to wait here for the next 4 years. If we study our leaders, Malcolm X, MLK, Marcus Garvey, they've come to the same conclusion, that the U.S. is a burning house, right? Literally, too. There's a plantation that's burning right now in Louisiana. A failing experiment that was never created for us and has no intention of truly treating us equally. Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X believed in racial separation, explaining that the black people needed to have their own communities and institutions free from the control of whites. I hope we still agree with that. Marcus Garvey went further, stating on establishing a separate black nation and called for Pan-African unity. We talked about unity, right? A recognition for the need of global blacks to unite against the common systems of oppression. I also had to take a peek at Stokely Carmichael. I was honored to meet his son, a wonderful gentleman, the last time I was in Ghana at the 8th Pan-African Congress. And so we've connected since then. But Stokely Carmichael, as we know it, Kwame Ture coined the term Black Power, right? Which perfectly captures the essence of the direction that we should really be thinking about. Nation building, self-determination on their common cultural heritage and identity, that of African cultural heritage and identity. And we'll talk about why that is important. Now, when we say self-determination, what does that mean? Self-determination. Self-determination, the need for us as a people to define our own goals rather than rely on white institutions for liberation. And that's the state we're still in today. Community building, uniting and relying on each other, unity again, through solidarity and within the common understanding of our shared heritage. Again, what is that roadmap that has been given to us by our leaders? How have we furthered their teachings? How much have we advanced as a people in our goal for true freedom? Now, unless we believe that we're freedom, I'm not quite sure who the person is, but they said that I am still a slave because we are not free. And because I'm still a slave, the only thing I think of is freedom and revolution. How much have we advanced as a people in our goal for true freedom, and is that what we really want? Do we really want our own nation, right, to have control of our destiny, or are we still attached to this oppressive system and our oppressor that we are unable and unwilling to cut ties with? It's like we have a toxic relationship with this country, right? Although we are aware that we are not really loved or treated the way we deserve to be treated, right, we are not willing or ready to cut ties in a real way. Despite the brutality that we face, the mistreatment of our children, we will cry and then we will continue. Every 4 years, election season, we will resign that contract, confirming our commitment to this relationship, believing that the next time things will change. And it wouldn't, but we still have hope. Meanwhile, we have elders in the family, respected ancestors who have left trails, clues, maps showing us how and why we should break free and escape. But we love the material benefits we get from being associated with our oppressor. We love the feeling we get from the toys we can buy, the comforts we can afford, the proximity to whiteness we can achieve in this materialistic, individualistic, and capitalistic society, while our community is suffering, while we are all still suffering. Should it be our responsibility to free America, to be the best version of itself, or do we continue trying to prove our humanity? Do we pull back and focus our energy on ourselves to heal, rebuild, build the community, the nation that we, our children, deserve? How do we take the resources that we have gained while being in this toxic relationship and bring our communities to the direction and to the level that it needs to be? There are many black nationals who would disagree with the process of integration, right? I'm a Garveyite. But I understand the necessity of the civil rights movement. I understand the route that was taken by Martin Luther King and the integration. It was necessary because I think we as a people, we needed to see the results of what integration actually is like before we can really decide that we need to have our own freedom. Because there'll always be some of us who will be looking at the other side, but what if we were with them? It would always be better. I think integration was absolutely necessary because we had to prove to ourselves that there's nothing that we can do that would earn our rights to be seen as true human beings, right? So now we've crossed that bridge. We are here, we're integrated, we have access. What has it shown us? Has it shown us that we are still valued in this system? There's nothing that we can do or change to disrupt a system founded on white supremacy. We have done all that we can do to prove ourselves. African Americans is the richest black people outside of the continent, highly skilled. We have access to knowledge, resources that our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, Latin America, and South America do not have, and I can attest to that. Even in Europe, we have untapped power that can be beneficial, useful in the building of the ideal world or nation we deserve. So what does nation building actually look like? What does that mean? Have we thought of that? Okay. It is indeed a revolutionary act that sends a message of no longer wanting to be a part of this American experiment. To be sold the idea of the American dream that is becoming more difficult to attain each day. The word revolution is a scary word, right? What does that mean? A method or act of pushing back against oppression, violence, false narratives, imagery, is to force a change, little or small, right? To nation build, we are basically agreeing to participate in a revolutionary act that can be in the form of political, economic revolution or cultural revolution. But today we'll really hone in on cultural revolution. After the Black Power and Civil Rights Movement ended, Due to assassination of our leaders, we failed to retreat and regroup. We instead resorted to appealing to the nice white folk about the bad white folk, becoming comfortable as we are placated by the spoils of capitalism. So we fail to really realize that with liberation comes struggle and sacrifice. But I believe that the changes that are happening, it's our time. The changes that are happening around us gives us this opportunity to mobilize. I don't think this is ever more of a perfect time for us to organize. This administration is doing what they feel is best for their survival and maintenance of their world and the ability to maintain their power. Therefore, what would be an adequate response from us? How do we respond to that? Liberation for an African people is a different question due to the historical, cultural, psychological, and physical disruption that we've had from our pre-colonial ancestry. The structure of colonialism justified oppressing Africans. What did they use to justify oppressing us? Right? What are the claims that they had? We have no culture, we had no history, we created nothing before the Europeans. Right? Therefore, as African people, what must we do? For those of us who've seen, to be honest, I haven't seen Roots, but I know the term, like when they're beating Kunta Kinte, what were they saying? What was it, when they were beating him, what were they asking him? What's your name? Right? What's your name? They understood the power of identity. Right? We talked about words. The African people must engage in a cultural, historical, and rediscovery that reconnects us to our cultural heritage. I see that process has started gradually, right? As part of that cultural shift, we must develop revolutionary ideology that sets goals and standards for this new society that we have to create, right? Standards for the new society that are meant to be that we are meant to be a part of. In our struggle, during the 60s, it was a political fight that failed to adopt indigenous cultural values. We did have that moment in the 70s when we were wearing the afros and the dashikis. It was a fleeting moment, right? But as important, those cultural values as part of rebuilding of a nation and establishment of a new society. And being separated from our cultural heritage from Africa means that we have adopted Western Eurocentric morals and values that conflict with who we are at our core. We cannot talk about creating a nation if we're still connected in many ways to the world that has created us into who we are today. This disconnect and disruption is continued through the control of media, the arts, and the white power structure. Therefore, the revolutionary act is to destroy that old Eurocentric value system, transform our collective consciousness, and change the way we think, our social habits, the relationships to one another. Once these adjustments are made, then we can focus on the economic and political change. Now, every time we talk about what we need as a people, we talk about money first. We need that money because we can't do anything without that money, right? But I humbly disagree because we have people with money, but we don't know what to do with it.
Right.
That's not a shortage. Honestly, that's not the shortage. But once we're grounded in who we are, that's when we can know how to apply this money that we're getting, right? This means working together in unity, which is easier once we have that collective identity. The idea and concept of building a black nation is easier, and it is done for the benefit of the whole nation. How do we achieve this goal, and where do we start? We must start with our children. I see we have our babies here. And in starting with our children, we must be the example we want to see portrayed in our children. And I will give honor to Iya and Baba. I had a conversation at their home earlier this last weekend about what those examples look like in living that African-centered lifestyle. And I think they're closest to really embodying that. And so thank you for being that example for us. Our children are the most important part of our nation. They are our future. We know this, but do we really understand what that means? I know we love our children, but how are we expressing that in a real way? They are the extension of our legacy. the continuation of our culture, the values, our standards. They are the ones that take the lead and help building momentum and revolutionary movement. How was the age group of our civil rights leaders when they got started? In 20s, 18, 19, 20s, right? It's the young generation that they have the fire and the energy to make that change. It's us to do the work to pour it into them so that they can redirect that energy in a direction that is meant to rebuild our nation. Our children are taught the lies of the American dream, this great capitalist democracy, when their lived experience does not allow them to feel included and beneficiaries of that dream, of equality, of fairness. We must therefore properly prepare them for this future. Prepare them for the world that is truly ideal for them and not the world this current system is preparing them for. But we cannot prepare our children for a world we do not envision or imagine ourselves. So I'll pause here for a second. I would like for us to close our eyes. What does this Black African nation look like, feel like? When we think of our future, when we think of that future for our children, that ideal future, what does that look like? How are we preparing our children for that world? And where does that start? We should be preparing our children to be able to lead that nation, to gain the skills, the knowledge, and the mindset that is meant to contribute to the development of our nation, whether an acquired landmass in the United States, as proposed by Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture, or on the continent of Africa, as proposed by Marcus Garvey. Whichever, it must be done in a way that closes the gap between Africa and the West, for those of us who are in the West. Africa needs our resources and skill set, and we need the cultural understanding that is from the continent. So what does preparation look like? It starts in the home. We should be giving our children African revolutionary names, right? There's power in words, right? Teaching them the languages. I'm learning Swahili right now. And I practice with my son when he's with me, right? We must encourage learning these languages, look at shows, movies, pictures that have positive imagery that reflect Black nationalism and Black pride. I'm in the classroom every single day. I'm fighting and combating these negative imagery because our children feel so deflated. They have no sense of self-pride. They don't know why they should love who they are. Why should they love being Black when everything around them is telling them the opposite? All our time must be dedicated to building Black liberation. The time and energy we spend training and equipping ourselves to function in their world must be matched with creating a world of our own. The Black home should remind us of our heritage and be dedicated to the liberation of the Black nation. As in the home are our institutions, so as in our home, every institution that we build as a result must be an extension of that home. Our schools, our places of worship, our meeting spaces should all be a reflection so that our children can feel belonged and know that they're part of this larger community. And so, as I wrap this up, reimagining the dream, I think it's time for us to have a new dream. I think it's time for us to create that community, that environment, that culture, that nation that is deserving of us, of who we are, and for our children. I think now is the perfect time. I think the people who are in this space are the ideal people to start that. And it doesn't have to be said, but in our actions and the things we do will speak volumes. So thank you again, O.B.F.C. Thank you for creating this space, and thank you for being here.
Sister Zoe, that was phenomenal. That was phenomenal. She said she thinks now is the time for a new dream, and that it doesn't have to be spoken. It can be shown in our example and in our choices and our decision making, that we can make some new choices today. Thank you for pouring into us and also teaching us a bit about honoring the elders in the room. I appreciate how you asked for permission to proceed. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your culture with us, Sister Zoe. I think this talk has been amazing. Are we opening up for any questions today like we did yesterday? All right. Brother Thurston, would you like to moderate the questions, or would you like for me to just let the audience know that they can raise their hands and they can stand and ask for questions?
It don't matter. You don't think of me. That's okay.
All right, praise be to Allah. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open up the floor to the audience for some Q&A. So by a show of hands, if anyone has any questions, now is the time. So if you have a question, just go ahead and stand up and ask your question. Yes, it's a Cassandra.
I don't have a question. I just want to make sure I give our speakers their gifts that O.B.F.C got for you all. So I'll make sure that I hand those out to you right now.
Beautiful. Yes. And just, O.B.F.C. this weekend has been phenomenal. It has been beautiful. It has been rich. And every event that we have had has been just a wealth of energy, information, and knowledge. I think you all have done an amazing job. It's very well executed. And the people in the room, like Sister Zoe said, these are the ideal people to begin with. And I think you all have built a phenomenal foundation and village. Not only for our youth and our boys, but also for our fathers. And thank you for showing us divine manhood and fatherhood this weekend. And that just is from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for all the hospitality. I feel like I have a whole new family here in Arizona. Oh, praise be to Allah. Thank y'all so much. I have to come back, so it's not a question of if, it's just when. So before we close out, does anyone have any other questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to say both presentations were phenomenal. Thank you, sis, for inviting me. In reference to the studies that I've done on the word nigga, it actually comes from a term, niggas, that speaks to the divine. It's something that we as a people, when the colonizer came, noticed that we would use as a term in endearment to speak the divine. So through their twisted ways of time, they went from color to negro to nigga to nigger to however they want to pronounce it, but we have embraced it because it's so closely related to a term that comes, and you made a point that all of these things come back full circle to their origin. Just as black absorbs all color and light, we are the foundation of all things. So thank you for bringing that, and I appreciate you sharing that light. And sister, in reference to when you were talking about what do we do now to step into the next level and how do we build that nation? Well, the first key is for us to embrace our own identity. If I do not accept who I am, I cannot be who I'm supposed to be. But when I'm in place, I'm going to do my part regardless to who I'm around. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir.
I believe also one of the benefits that we have as Africans in the United States is that there are examples. And I'm not saying there was one perfect example, but we could take a little bit from that one, a little bit from this one, a little bit from another one, and come up with a better one. I happen to have familiarity with Oyotunji Village in Sheldon, South Carolina, where a group of Africans in the late 60s, early 70s decided we're done. We want to practice our own cultural and spiritual traditions and step out of the Eurocentric mindset that has been beleaguering our communities forever. It still exists. It's had its trials and tribulations, but it still exists, and it's an example of people who went and built for themselves. They didn't go to Home Depot and buy lumber. They cut down the trees to build houses and temples and shrines. They eventually went to Africa and learned more about the traditions and everything that they were trying to do. One of the things that we have done here in this country is turned our back on African traditional religion. And a lot of the things that have helped us survive to this point have been the hoodoo and voodoo and vodou traditions that we've turned our back on. When you couldn't go to the doctor, you went to the roots woman. When you couldn't have someone come and birth your child, you had a doula. You had somebody from the community that came in
That's right.
and helped you do that. That comes out of the African tradition. Europeans didn't know nothing about that. We was birthing their babies. So if we're going to be unified, we're going to have to educate ourselves. We all need to expand. And some of us have gone so far as to go to Kemet. Nothing wrong with that, but it's Kemet living. Kemet lives within us, but can we look and pull out what we need to survive today? So I'm not putting a hand up against it. I'm just saying there are things that are alive and moving and developing that we need to use in order to create that unification. Because if y'all were asking me to unify, and I'm saying, well, okay, so when we gonna talk about this? When we gonna talk about that? And you're like, well, we ain't there yet. We don't know what you're talking about. But I know everything that you're talking about because that's what I was born into. So what I'm saying is we got to think more globally, and we have to begin to look at those things that we have been told not to look at and find some value in it. Because there's a reason they told us not to look at it. The drums, the dances, the food, you know, the spirit.
Powerful.
You know, how do we get back to that? Because that's what, look, Toussaint Louverture and the mom that worked with him so they could defeat the French, they wasn't talking about Jesus.
No, not at all.
So,
I have something to say as well. Greetings, Alafia, Assalamu alaikum, Akwaba, Aburuboye, all that stuff. I come from all that, okay? I came out today for just what this brother said about unifying. I am a second generation Ifa priest who grew up just like this. In Newark, New Jersey, Mosque 25, Malcolm X and all those folks back in the day. My mother was a Black Panther. I was raised just like this. And I'm 60 years old. I've seen a lot in my 60 years. I've heard a lot of discussion, a lot of passion, a lot of anguish, a lot of confusion, a lot of misappropriation in terms of a person's thinking and their minds, and how frustrating it becomes for the evolution of your existence to walk, not just here in the United States, but globally. I've lived on every continent except Australia. And I understand the importance of not only a unification of us of African descent, but us as people. Humanity, and what I would consider a shift in the core belief system of your existence is what unity is. How do we do that? A core belief system is really examining, as this brother put so eloquently, looking at all the lies that you have been told and dismissing it. I don't know nothing about Jesus. I wasn't raised like that. I was on the corner doing this at 6 years old. I love this girl over here who I let come in my house to talk to her about what this looked like, because I've lived it, okay? I've lived it. when people talk about Jesus, I ain't got nothing against the man. But just tell him I said, what's up? Come on by the house. I give you some wine. And you can go to my Ancestral stride and have a little something. It's something there for you. But I only say that to say that when you begin to deconstruct in yourself the things that do not serve you, that can't serve your children, cannot serve your future, it's more than just talking about what's wrong with it. You need to understand how you bought into it in the first place. And until you do that, all the discussions about unifying is nothing but glorified lip surface that will perpetuate the very thing that we're sitting in here listening to. And I'm 60 years old. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've heard just like this one. The question now becomes, what are you going to do about it? And it starts with your own your own head. What did you do to believe it? Who and what contributed to your core belief system, and start cutting away at it like it's a machete. You see this cup right here with me on these machetes? That's symbolic of destroying what does not serve you. And I say that with nothing but passion, love, and conviction, because I know it can be done. I am a living product of it. My mother lived and died for this tradition and this people, and I know that these youngsters, y'all can do it too, but you first got to look within and stop looking without, because if you don't, you'll be my age saying the exact same thing I'm saying all over again. Ashe?
Ashe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to point out one thing real quick. Here, any other questions? Who you point? Oh,
Did you hear what I said, baby?
First thing I wanted to do is much gratitude to O.B.F.C. Because last year when we had this event, I challenged them to continue with these conversations throughout the year. And now that we've resumed again this year, it is obvious that the community that they have built within has came to fruition. So I want to thank O.B.F.C. for being consistent with listening to the community and bringing us together. One of the things I do want to challenge is that a lot of times with our mindset, we are under the impression that once we speak a thing, everybody is going to follow. So I challenge the people in this room to understand that even though we might make these changes in our community, we cannot expect everyone to follow immediately. But we should not be giving up. We should be continuing on in that fight, because when you try to eat to live, it's not going to take 2 days to make that change. So in that same fashion, we have to continue and continue and continue so that others will follow. There are still going to be some that are going to fall by the wayside. There are some that are going to still want to be there in the comfort of their master's home. And we have to have the ability to not be emotional, but be okay with leaving those behind. Because as Africa and those on the Western, as Sister Zoe brought out, we're going to combine. Those in Africa are already showing us they're coming up with their own currency. They've kicked out the Western. However, they do know that people in America have the resources. We have the abilities. We have the knowledge. So we have to bridge that gap. And in order to bridge that gap, we have to be willing to unite. They might not do business with the colonizers in the United States, but us they will, if we are united. And that is what the colonizers they do not want us to do that, because Africa, the new Africa, is bigger than the current continent. So I encourage everyone to not be discouraged when people won't follow, but think on a global mindset. O.B.F.C., the Growth Spot, these brothers here in Phoenix, they have taken the lead in showing us what it is that we need to do. So we have to learn how to control our minds, control our emotions, and move forward. Don't look back. When the black slaves, the black woman and the black man, when they jumped over that broom, they were signifying that they were uniting together, but they were creating a divide between the past. Some of them were of different nations when they were back on the continent, but they united together for a common goal. And so Africa and the people of African descent in the United States, we have to proverbially jump over that broom together and leave that past behind us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That spirit that takes to say these things, just know that this takes courage. It takes courage to overcome and deny yourself of what's comfortable. And once we, really become family, if you're uncomfortable, let somebody know so that we can support you to overcome whatever hurdle, because pain is going to come up. And we have to be able to be willing to express that pain. And when you do, you'll find out you're not alone in that pain. And then that's where we can garner strength to continue down this journey, which is going to be a process. If it took us 450 years to get here, it might take us another 450 years to get out of it. But there is light at the end of this tunnel.
That fear, that unconquered might be fear. But if you have that support, that family support with you, then you can work through that fear.
Yeah.
You just cannot give up.
So if you don't have any family, find somebody in this room. Get you somebody's number before you leave. Connect with somebody on social media before you go. Make sure that you follow O.B.F.C on Facebook. Make sure you connect with us on Instagram, because we're going to be continuously dropping messages and posts and content that's just going to remind you and just keep pouring into your spirit, because every day is a new step, and every day we're going to run into some new things. And we've got elders in the room who have been through those things. So we can just take their wisdom and not have to bump our heads. We can save a lot of time on this journey by leveraging their experience, leveraging their connections, and leveraging their lessons. Let's not call them mistakes, because Allah's no mistakes in God. However, those lessons, just like she said, we can find ourselves in a position that's the same space, or we can find ourselves making new mistakes, and that means progress. So O.B.F.C, we're looking to you to continue to feed us as your village, as the community, as a family. And invite somebody else who may feel like they're alone in this thing, and let them know that they've got Brother Thurston, they've got Brother Bilal. My brother right here, he edits books. Any authors in the building or want to be an author, we have support here. We have solutions here. And so this is how we can continue to unite. So does anyone else have anything they want to contribute?
Yes, I just want to say one quick thing here. First and foremost, thank everybody for showing up today. I truly appreciate it. This has been the best RBG Xplosion Weekend for me personally. I think my brothers feel somewhat of the same way. It's been a lot less stressful. I think part of that is because we didn't put too much effort in who wasn't going to be here, and focused a lot on who was going to be here and who's in the building each day that we've had these events. And as Sister Shamekia was mentioning, we've strived to not be discouraged as the room isn't as filled as we would like for it to be, but settle on the fact that we're planting seeds along the way. And I do want to point out that our brother here that's sitting in the front with his family, he came to the Black Family Conference yesterday, and after the conference he walked around and he met everybody, which is a powerful thing, just being able to network. But then it's even more powerful when he walks in the building today with his entire family. Mm-hmm. Those type of things will allow me to continue to do this work and continue to serve in this space. So I want to say to the children, continue to have the respect for your father and know that he's doing the best he can to save your life. Not only that, you have your mother with you as well. And this is what they fear. They fear a strong Black family, a connected Black family, a unified Black family. So y'all continue to walk together through this journey and know that we support you as well. So I'll just end on that note. Peace and blessings.
I got Brother Hannah over here.
Peace and blessings, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I love this, brother. I'll keep it short and simple. First and foremost, thank you all for coming out. And if you look around, you're inside of a classroom right now, or one of the schools. And next door is our Grassroots. Next door is Afro Soul. Next door, if you look at this whole strip, it's us. So we're already taking the steps. So I just want to put that out there. We're already taking the steps. We're supporting our own in that process. So let's just be mindful of that. Come support. We got students here. There's history, there's knowledge, there's a future. This is a great opportunity for us to connect with them and provide to them what they may need to be able to move forward. So if we catch them early enough, we can prevent the pathway we wind up going into, and we can also help guide them to where they should be going. And let's make sure we support Grassroots. I got books in there, books in there, books in there. So let's make sure we support our bookstore as well. Let's support here as we're already here, and let's continue to branch out from there. So if we're looking for something to do, we already have something. We can start off here, and we want to thank our brothers, thank our sisters for coming out. That's all I'm gonna say. I say I was keep it.
We have elders in the room, but we also have my grandson. It's his first RBG. This legend right here.
Thank you.
When I just went to Greece this last summer, and they acknowledged the Mediterranean as the Africans.
Oh, yeah.
So
Awesome. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
All right.
I'll say one piece too, because I go to a lot of these events, a lot of these meetings, and you're right, it is a lot of the same stuff over and over and over. And what I learned is that there's power in the follow-up. So if you're serious about whatever space that you want to be in, if you want to continue to build and grow, I'm here to connect with you, because I know what space that I'm in and that you can hold me accountable to be in, and that's working on restoring the black family. So I can't speak to everyone's tasks that they want to do, because every time we do these things, there's going to be a long list of what about this, what about that, what about that, we also got to do this. Cool. So if you're strong, passionate about that, then I'll follow up with you in a couple of months and see if you're still on it. Because this is what we've been on. This is what our fourth one? Our fourth RBG weekend, on top of the numerous things that we do throughout the year. You know, we have the Father's Call that takes place every Tuesday, right? 6 p.m. We can get you the Zoom link for the fathers, and on top of the many things that we have going on. So it's not that it's not going on, it's maybe that you need to get more involved in what's going on, because these things are moving. And if everyone knows how a ship turns, it doesn't turn quickly. It takes a while for that ship to turn. But things are definitely happening, you know. So a question for yourself is, what type of person are you feel you are? A person that watches things happen, let things happen, doesn't know what's happening, or making things happen? I'll leave it at that. Everyone have a good, wonderful rest of the weekend. Enjoy yourself. Connect with somebody. Hug someone. Show someone love. As Brother Abdul Speaks said. Peace and blessings.
Support his book as well.
And post your book. He has books for sale too as well. Have a good day, everyone.
Also connect with sisters.
Peace and blessings, man. It's Brother Crondo. You already know what it is. We at the studio, Central Station Studios to be exact. Wrapping up a epic weekend, RBG Xplosion Weekend here in Phoenix, man. It's been an awesome event filled with unity, love, legacy. You know what I'm saying? Black power, building, learning, networking, all of the above, man. Just wrapping it up. I just want to say peace to O.B.F.C, my brothers, my team. Shout out to Grassroots Bookstore. Shout out to Sister Bria X. Shout out to Phoenix Center of the Arts, Brother Will, and Hannibal, Modaba Education Center. Man, it's been an epic weekend. Definitely one of the most fun and less stressful RBG events that we've done so far. Be on the lookout at what we got coming up, man. You already know what it is. Black Power.
Black Power.